Hey you guys, welcome to the video. As you can see, I am doing my 1 year nurse review. I cannot believe it's been a year already. It was a year, May 27th, so I'm a few days late. But wow, time really flies. Like I'm just thinking about it now, like, wow, I've really been a nurse for a whole year. So anyway, just so we can get into the video, I just want to give you guys a little bit of background. I am a brand new nurse. I have no medical experience at all. For those who care, I also have my ADN, not my BSN. I work in a hospital and I work on the cardiac floor. If I miss anything that you guys would like to know, just shoot me a question down below. I'm really good at answering you guys' questions. So let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, so to get started, I wanted to focus on my 3 challenges, the 3 biggest challenges that I felt like I faced as a new nurse. There were a lot, but there were a few things that kind of just constantly rang out in my head. And the first one was time management. And I don't mean time management in the sense of like not getting everything done on time, but time management in the sense of like, I was so afraid that I wouldn't get things done on time that I failed to do other things like assessments. I was so focused on getting my meds passed that I was barely doing assessments. And I know, depending on what the patient is there for, you're not going to do a full head-to-toe assessment. I know they tell you that. That's how you learn in school and health assessment. But it's just not feasible to do a full, like a neuro check, do PERLA, all those things. If somebody comes in for a cardiac issue, you're not doing PERLA. You're just not. You're assessing the things that are more important that coincide with what they're here for. Now, of course, you always want to be observant, and if you see something that seems off, you assess it. But other than that, you're just not doing that. At least on my floor, in my experience, I'm just not doing that. But the problem with me was that I was so focused. I felt like I was going to be behind on passing my meds. And now looking at it in hindsight, I was never behind, but I was so focused on let me get your meds and move to the next person so that I'm not behind, that I failed to do assessments. So in a sense, my time management wasn't where it needed to be, because if I managed my time wisely, I should have been able to do an assessment, take my vitals, and give meds and still be good. But I was just so scared. I don't know why. I was like terrified of not being able to pass my meds on time. Now that I have gotten better, I could do an assessment like this, like nobody's business. But before, it was just like, let's get these meds passed. Let's get to the next patient so that I can sit down and chart. Like I was definitely afraid of not being able to pass my meds on time. And now when I look back on it, even today, like there are very seasoned nurses who are not, I work night shift for those who don't know, who are not done passing their meds like around 10:30, 11 o'clock. And I'm just like, bruh, you're fine. So time management was one of my biggest challenges, not in the sense that I wasn't doing things on time, but that I was afraid that I would lose time. So let's get into the second thing. So my second challenge was being very hard on myself. If I made a mistake, I would think about it for days. Like I would really beat myself up for not knowing something or not thinking quick enough on my feet. Or I don't mind asking questions. That's one thing about me. I'd rather ask a question than to make a mistake. But I would get really upset with myself if I asked what I felt like was a question that if I just would have took a little bit more time and dug a little bit deeper, I would have figured it out. But going back to time management, I feel like if I could just get the answer right now, then I'll still be able to pass my meds on time. So let me just ask. And then when I get the answer and it's like, duh, I would be so mad at myself. Like I would drive home and that's all I would think about is why did you do this? Or why did you say that? Or why did you forget this? Like I was very hard on myself. And I'm not necessarily a perfectionist, but I care what people think about me when it comes to my work ethic. And I did not want anybody to think like, oh, she's that nurse. Like I don't want to be that person like, oh yeah, Shannon, you know she always leaving something. I don't want to be that person. Like when it comes to my reputation, like I truly care about that. And if I made a mistake or I forgot to do something, or not even forgot, if I just didn't know, because a lot of what I learned was based on how my preceptor trained me. And night and day shift are different as far as what they do, what they don't do, and the same thing with us. And if I was taught not to do something, or to just mention that in day shift, and then I give report and the day shift nurse is just like, oh, but you could have did that. I then feel bad because it's like, I didn't know because that's how it was taught. But if I knew that it was just this simple to do, I just would have did it for you. So I was very, 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 very hard on myself. And even to this day, I am hard on myself. And I think that keeps me on my toes because I never want to be a slacker. I told y'all, I do not want to be that nurse. Y'all know what nurse I'm talking about. If you are nurses, like, where you like, oh yeah, so-and-so, you know how they be. I don't want to be that nurse. So I'm always hard on myself for not knowing things, for making mistakes, for not responding fast enough or responding to something that probably wasn't even worth responding to. I'm just really hard on myself. So that was a challenge that I definitely faced in the beginning, but I'm a little bit more lenient now that, you know, I'm a year in. But being hard on myself was definitely a big challenge for me. So let's get into the next. Okay, so the next challenge that I faced was critically thinking. My critical thinking skills were very subpar. I knew how to do things. I knew I could critically think enough to see something, observe something, and say, it's not right. Let me go get help. And what I mean by this is perfect example. I'll always think back to this situation. I think it was probably like my first week and I'm already doing a SWAT. But I knew that my patient called me in because they could not breathe. They were having trouble breathing. And based on experience, I had seen somebody go get a vitals machine and just check their pulse ox. Now, had I not seen that, I don't even think that that would have been my first thought. I probably just would have went and got somebody and said, she can't breathe. What should we do? But that's another thing. I'll tell y'all about that later. But experience comes in hand. But I don't want to get off topic. So I go get the pulse ox. I see that her O2 sats are like 89, 90. And I know that that's not horrible, but that's not the best. And I believe she has COPD. And I just remember from school. That's like one of the few things I remember from school. Like having them sit up and kind of sit like this so they can kind of open up their lungs. And I didn't think to turn her oxygen up. I didn't think to listen to her lungs. Like this is... honestly, I don't even think that's critically thinking. I just think that should be basic knowledge. But because I was learning so much, what seemed basic to me was like critical thinking in the moment. And so I did go get my preceptor and say, I don't think something's right. Should we check on her? And we did. And we ended up having to call a SWAT and she ended up having to go to ICU. So I am thankful that I'm smart enough to know that something's not right. Go get help. But in that moment, I was like, man, why? Because I'm seeing all the things that my preceptor is doing, and she's listening to her lungs and she's turning her oxygen up. And I'm like, man, why didn't I do that? And it's not necessarily that I don't even think that I couldn't do it. I just think when you are new and you're learning so much, like I said, what may be basic to you, what may be basic to everybody else as a new person, it's harder to think on a basic level, if that makes sense. But my critical thinking skills, I don't think they were the best. And again, going back to being hard on myself, that bothered me because I wanted to be a nurse who be like, see something and be like, bam, bam, bam. Now, a year later, somebody not breathing, it's like a lot of things are second nature to me. And I had to realize that sometimes your critical thinking skills will not develop until you are in a situation. It's easy to look at a book and look at a step and be like 1, 2, 3, but everything doesn't go like 1, 2, 3. Everything goes 1, 5, 6, 7, 2, something like that. And so you have to give yourself, I guess, a little bit of time and a little experience so that you can develop those skills. So that definitely was a challenge for me, my critical thinking skills, being able to see something and then say, okay, this is what we do for that. And then that, like I said, that comes with experience. You're not going to know how to do every single thing once something happens. But I think the most important thing to know is when something is not right. I don't care if you feel like it's something minor. I'd rather have been the person who asked the question or said, hey, can you come check on this with me, than to kind of just let something ponder in the back of my head like, well, maybe they are right. Maybe it'll resolve itself. Ask questions. I don't care what nobody says. At the end of the day, it's your reputation and it's your license and it's your conscience. You don't want somebody in there suffering when you can make a decision to help them. So definitely ask questions and don't be so concerned about your skills, your critical thinking skills not being up to par. They will definitely develop over time. So next I wanted to go over what is normal. I don't think enough people discuss how they feel in the beginning, and we kind of begin to think that what we're going through is like an isolated situation, when in reality a lot of people kind of have these same feelings and thoughts. So one of the things that I feel is normal is fear. I am the type of person who I like my normalcy. I like things to be the same. I don't really like change. I can adapt, which is good, but if I have a choice, I like things to be the same every day. And in nursing, that is not the case, especially the floor that I was on. Like, the floor to this day is deemed like the crazy floor. Like, oh my God, nobody wants to come to that floor because it's just always something going on. But I felt like that built a good foundation for me, because if I can make it on that floor, I can go anywhere. It's kind of like if you're coming from an ICU nurse and you going down a step down, or you doing med surg, just like, oh, this is nothing. But I was so scared on my first day that morning. Like, I cried because I did not know. I was just scared. I was scared of what I didn't know. The second thing that ties into fear is the fear of the unknown. I didn't know who my coworkers were going to be. I didn't know if the charge nurse was going to be nice. I didn't know if I was going to have good text. I didn't know if my patient was going to be able to see that I was a new nurse and be like, nah, give me somebody else. I didn't know who my preceptor was. Like, I was so scared that I got a glimpse of my schedule, and I seen my preceptor's name. I went and looked this lady up on Facebook, just so I can feel like I knew something, because I'm going to a completely new environment. I don't know anybody, nobody there. I did find out that there were people from my school who was working on my floor, which made things feel like a lot better, but I needed to feel like I knew something. So I went and looked up on this woman's Facebook page and seen that she had natural hair, she was a Christian, she was Black, and then that in itself just made me feel a little bit at ease. Like, okay, at least I know something. I don't know nothing about this lady, but at least I know something. So to have fear and to not know things is completely normal. And also, piggybacking off of the not knowing, not even just your environment, but not knowing how to nurse, not knowing how to be a nurse is completely normal. Again, like I said, I have no medical background. So those of you who are LPNs going to be a nurse, an RN, those of you who are techs, even a secretary, I feel like had more experience than me. But I just felt like, why don't I know this? Why I wanted to know everything. I was not okay with not knowing. I just wanted to be that person who would be like, oh yeah, I know that. I don't know that. I didn't act like that because that's not the type of person I am. But in my mind, I wanted to be that person who just knew everything. And I had to come to grips with myself like, bruh, you're not going to know everything. This is your first day. Even in your first week, even in my first year, you're still not going to know everything. And I talk to seasoned nurses all the time who are like 20 years in the game. And the good nurses will tell you, like, even though I've been doing this for 20 years, I still learn new stuff every day. I'm not going to know everything. So not knowing is okay. Even if it's like basic level stuff. Like, I used to feel like I should have knew like the tops when you send your labs, the color of the tops, what this color meant for this lab. To this day, I still be like getting it mixed up. But it's okay not to know. It is a completely normal feeling. The third thing that I think is normal is being overwhelmed. I had to learn that as a new nurse, you're going to be learning so much. You are going to be bombarded with knowledge, like every single day. If it wasn't me learning about a medication or learning how to talk to a doctor or what doctor to actually call it, what charge nurse is good and what nurse you got to look behind and how you have to do this assessment and how you have to chart this, like every single day I was learning something new, and it was a lot. If I had it my way, I would have came home after work and looked over my patients, disease process, how things manifest, what medications. If I had it my way, I really would have did that. I would have did that. But I would be so exhausted from learning from the day that when I got home, don't talk to me about work. I don't want to think about work. I don't want to look at work until I have to go to work. When people used to ask me, like, you know, people who knew that I was a new nurse, like, oh, how is it going? I was just like, oh, it's going good. But in my mind, I would be like, I am tired. Like, every single day you are learning something. Like, every day it's always something new, and that is overwhelming. And I had to learn that is normal. That is completely normal. And I'm so thankful that I had a preceptor. Like, she felt me. Like, she knew when I would be getting overwhelmed, or she gradually increase my patient load. Like, on the first day, I was just watching her. And like the first week, she'd give me one patient, then we would increase. Or sometimes she would know, like, this patient is going to be a lot of work. So you can either have this one patient who's going to be a lot of work and you can focus on them, or I can focus on the one patient that's going to be a lot of work, and then you do the less acuity patients, the lower acuity patients. And that way you're not overwhelmed. But I am so thankful for her because she really set a good foundation for me. And she made me feel comfortable in learning. Like, I never felt like I was learning too slow, or I wasn't learning enough, or she just let me know that everything that I was going through was normal. Like, she reassured me that you will get better with time. This is a learning experience, and just take in everything that you can. Because when you get by yourself, it's going to be a different ball game. So just enjoy the fact that you have a cushion right now. And even when I did get by myself, the floor that I worked on was a residency floor as far as like nurses and doctors. So everybody was learning. So the culture there was that this is a learning experience for all of us. So it's no need to be like mean, or you know how they say nurses eat their young. I never experienced any of that as a nurse, and I'm so thankful because I think it would have really put a sour taste in my mouth, especially with everything else that was going on, you know, just being new, just learning and just trying to figure out my footing and get a good foundation. So those are the three things that I feel like is normal. Fear, not knowing everything or feeling like you don't know enough, and being overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is like a real feeling, and it's okay. So those are the three things that I feel like are normal. Y'all let me know, what is y'all face too? Like, because like I said, I'm pretty sure as we begin to talk and have a discussion, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I was feeling that way too as well. So let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is what I found out that I loved about nursing in this last year. And one of the biggest things I love is the opportunities. I feel like, and y'all can correct me if I am wrong, but if you are a nurse, there is no reason why you should be unhappy with what you are doing. If you don't like your unit, if you don't like the field that you're currently working in, you don't like the pay or whatever, like, there is always something that you can do. You can go work with an attorney. You can do labor and delivery. You can do mental health. You can be a travel nurse. Like, you can work in ICU. You can work in the ED. You can do med surg. You don't even have to do bedside. Like, there are so many opportunities as a nurse. I don't think there is any other career. It may be one that I'm not thinking of, but I don't think there is any other career that affords you the opportunity to just get up and do as you please, or just switch to another field if you do not like it besides nursing. I absolutely love that about nursing, because what I did learn in my first year, actually, I'll get to that later. I love that about nursing. I just feel like whatever you want to do, figure out. Because I know sometimes for me, I just wanted to get in the door. I didn't care what department I was in or what department I got placed in. I just wanted to start working. And as I started working, I started seeing the things that I did like and I didn't like. And, you know, I was able to make a decision on what I want to do moving forward. But I just love the opportunities that nursing gives you. I cannot think of one career that allows you to just freely move like that. if you don't like it. I cannot think of not one single career. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it is, but right now my mind is just so stuck on nursing. But that is just like the most absolute beautiful thing about nursing, that if you don't like something, you can go do something else within nursing. It's not like you got to go do a whole nother degree, or you might have to get other credentials within nursing. But at the end of the day, you can still be a nurse and do something different or something specific. You don't have to just stay bedside. You don't have to just be ICU. You don't just have to travel. You can do so many different things. So that's one of the things I love about nursing. All right, guys. So to wrap this up, because I don't want this video to be too long, all right, guys, so to wrap this up, because I don't want the video to be too long, what I basically learned about myself in this year is that I don't want to do bedside. I don't mind bedside. I don't hate bedside. I definitely learned so much, but it's not what I'm passionate about. I like to dig deeper on a mental level. And those of you who have been following me for a while know that I either wanted to do labor and delivery or mental health. Mental health is like what I'm passionate about. That's what I think about. That's what I read about almost every day. Like, I'm subscribed to like psych newsletters. Like, I just love mental health. So I want to go back to school and be a nurse practitioner in that aspect of mental health. I do believe that once I get to that part, I will always keep a PRN, med surge, or whatever type of job, just so that I don't lose those skills. But I definitely learned that bedside is not for me, and that I will be going back to school, which I already knew. I just didn't know how I would like bedside. I didn't know if I would just kind of get used to it and fall in love with it, or if I would move on to something else. And now that I got the experience, like within this 1 year, I realized that that's not something I want to do long term. I will definitely do it up until that transition point, because like I said, I don't hate it. I actually enjoy it a lot because you learn so much. But like I said, I like to talk to people on a deeper level. Even with my patients now, like, if y'all are nurses, y'all know that people like to talk. And sometimes they want to tell you all their business. And I'd be interested, but not in like the petty stuff, but about the like, what made you be this way? How did you get this way? Because a lot of things that people go through, when you're talking about like high blood pressure and cholesterol, those are lifestyle changes. And I understand that if you've had high blood pressure and high cholesterol for 20 years, a pill, you doing lifestyle changes is not going to work. Maybe over time it'll get better so you could decrease the pills. But I feel like everything starts with a mindset change. And that is what excites me. Like, people who are like, what we call it Baker Act in Florida, the people who are like, basically on like suicide watch, or deemed to be like not be competent, or, you know, they just need people to watch them. Like, I love those type of patients. Give me what we call the crazy patients. I love that. Like, I remember sitting in one of my patients' room for like an hour, just kicking it with him. It was a young dude and he wanted to kill himself, and we just like vibing, and I'm just trying to give him advice and let him see that, you know, there's more to life than what he's going through, and just to press on. Like, I love that. Like, my colleagues be like, girl, you be in there talking to them patients. And I do, because I enjoy learning about people and how they think and how they process stuff. So mental health is definitely what I believe I'm passionate about. I hope once I get into the field, I still feel that same way, which I think I will. And then the last thing is, you get better with time. I am not the nurse I was on day one. I have learned so much. My skills have developed. Like, with experience, you will get better with time. And I think if I told myself that every day, I wouldn't have been so hard on myself during that whole process. But now looking back on it, I'm like, you have made such great progress. Like, you have become the nurse that you had envisioned. I'm not perfect by any means, and I still have a long way to go. Remember, I'm only 1 year in, and I'm still learning, but I can definitely say I am far better than I was last year versus today. Like, there is a night and day difference on what I know how to do, what I know how to look for, my assessments, how I talk to doctors and things like that. That's another thing. I don't even think I spoke on that, but let me know if y'all had issues with talking to doctors. I didn't really have an issue because I'm a people person, and I'm a people person, but I just know how to talk to people. I'm not moved by people's titles or anything like that. I talk to a doctor like I talk to a nurse, or I talk to the janitor, or I talk to people normally, so I never felt a fear. I think it was more so knowing what I was saying. I didn't want to talk to a doctor and be like, I wanted to be like, this is what I'm calling you for, boom, boom, boom. I didn't want to feel unsure, but I was never necessarily afraid to talk to anybody. But that's pretty much all I have, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Y'all talk to me down below. What were some of your fears? What were some of your challenges? What field do y'all want to go in? If y'all are new nurses, or if you are a nurse, tell me what field that you are in. Like, it's so many things that y'all can do. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.